Why is everyone upset about June 14th? What's going on? Why should we be worried? A lot of money spent. Is it worth it? We're going to discuss what June 14th actually is and how some people are up in arms about it. And then we're also going to discuss, again, LA. We're going to discuss the difference in what happened in January a few years back and what's happening in LA. You know, you've had those comparisons. Oh, well, if you didn't bring the National Guard in, wait, he did? Try to bring them in. We're going to discuss all that and a little bit more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. You can see that it's actually fixing to get rainy, I guess, because my lens is starting to fog up a little bit. So hopefully it'll stay clear for this video. Now, before we jump into the talks of today, remember my vlog channel, Life with Colby Mac. We've got some big videos coming out that we're going to be showing on the vlog channel about our farm, how we live sustainable, how we do what we call prepping and homesteading. You'll be able to kind of follow our journey there, so please make sure you check that out. Also, my wife's channel, The Max Life. Both these channels represent just what we're talking about as we try to live a life that is completely, really independent. Now let's talk about today's topic. Now let's jump into today's topic, June 14th. Let's talk about it first, then we're going to talk about California. June 14th, what is happening on June 14th? Now that is actually Trump's birthday, if I'm not mistaken, but that's not what the big roar is about. There's been lines of tanks, howitzers, military vehicles, all heading to Washington. Why is DC getting overrun with all this military equipment? Well, it's the military parade that Trump has been pushing for so long. We're going to discuss why is it important and not. Let's talk about the pros and cons. This is actually from a story. June 14th, 2025 is the Military Day Parade in Washington, D.C., marking the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. It has sparked various reactions, pros and cons. This also coincides with President Trump's 79th birthday, and I think that's kind of what's made Democrats even mad, because they're like, he's doing it on his birthday. It's a birthday celebration. He's wasted hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, let's go through what it is and what it's not, and I'm going to tell you my opinion personally. All right, the pros to this: celebration of military heritage and, of course, the United States freedom. The parade honors the U.S. Army's 250-year history of the Revolutionary War, modern times, showcasing the contributions to national security and technological advances. Now, this, in a way, I'm okay with, because, again, we're showing the force of what we've built. I mean, you remember, there's people that sacrifice their life so you could be free. So people that we're going to be talking about in California are doing what they're doing because of these people that sacrifice. So I think this is a big pro, and I think, actually, military parades in general, honestly, I'm indifferent about, meaning I don't really care pro or con. However, for this aspect, I actually like the fact that we're showing power and prominence and belief in our military. This is something that we lost the last few years. Think about this now. Think of the change. The Pride Month was, even in Target, was focused on bad rights and things that were, I mean, really harmful to our families. Now Target, we're showing pride, and we have like USA stuff everywhere. So I like the fact that we're starting to see people more happy to be part of America. And we're not going to talk about the left in California yet. But overall, I think this is a good thing to bring in pride for America. Not that we become prideful, but that we have pride in, we take pride in what God has given us and the freedoms that we have and the people who fought and died for it and sacrificed so much. Features are soldiers in periods of uniforms, equipment is displayed, fostering appreciation for the roles the military has played in our safety. It is a boost of national pride, just like what we talked about. Listen to this. The event, including a festival, fireworks, and enlisted ceremonies, are designed to inspire patriotism. This is not only showing patriotism, but hopefully encourage more people to be active and look upon the military as a reputable profession. Now, again, I'm not for war. We've talked about this before. However, we do realize that our military and war is a part of life. That's how we stay free. So will we defend, of course, our country? Yes. But what this also brings up is that 77% of all youth are ineligible to serve due to health problems and due to inactivity and being overweight. So hopefully what they're trying to say is, look, we want to encourage the importance of serving and bringing value back to service. I think that's a good thing. Number 3 pro, it says economic benefits. It's estimated that 200,000 people will visit Washington, D.C. and boost the economy with tourism, hospitality, and related sectors. It is a live stream situation where it will help benefit military to be able for people, for all millions upon millions to see how beautiful D.C. is. And I'll be honest with you, even though D.C. is so corrupt, I actually very much enjoyed when we went to D.C. We went to D.C. years ago and I took my kids. This was pre-2020. And just the history, the value, the culture, and it was just like, you know, this is what the last 200, 250 years have done. We have worked so tirelessly to make our nation great, to make it great. It allowed us to feel very much patriotic. I loved going to the Lincoln Monument, the Washington Monument. I loved going to the Capitol to see how much our nation has grown, the history in the museums. I think it's phenomenal. So it says it will bring a big tourist destination, tourist push, where people can be proud of what America has become. I was very proud. Now, I'll be honest with you. You know, I don't know if I'd take my family back right now because of the tensions and the problems, but I think this is a good step in the right direction. It says over 200,000 people will be in attendance for this parade. Now to the cons, and this is where a lot of the rhinos and really Democrats have pushed against Trump. Listen to this. It says the high cost and resource allocation, estimated $25 to $40 million the parade could potentially cost, not counting all the things it makes from Washington, D.C., but it's saying what the military will have to pay to basically get these things done. It's criticized as wasteful, and it should go to support veterans and training. Now, I'm going to stop there just for a second. Should we be wasting money right now? No, I think that's a horrible idea when it comes to wasting money. But I love the fact, and this is so oxymoronic, and this is where Democrats and politicians should be just tar and feathered, is they're saying we should use this money instead of wasting it on your military day parade. $25 million, it's a lot of money, but they're saying instead of wasting it, we should give it to the veterans. Now, these are the same people that literally just spent $630 billion, with a B, $1 billion to house illegals for the last 4 years. The last 4 years. And then another $300 billion. So upwards of $950 billion with the B to house, to take care of them, and to then try to deport over the next 4 years. They said it's cost $1 trillion to do that. These same people will gripe and complain that Trump is wanting to spend $25 million to bring all military army into Washington for this parade. Should we waste money? No. But to hear the pot call the kettle black here, to say, you know what, well look, you should be wasting it, you should be spending it on Americans and veterans. At the same time, these people, including the people in California that we're visiting to discuss, is wasting hundreds of billions and even trillions on people that's not even American. So I do think this is a moot point. You're gonna dog someone out for spending $25 million when you're spending hundreds of billions and even in the trillions? Come on. Plus, they didn't talk about this. They said that Washington, D.C. could make upwards of millions of dollars by the tourism and the outpouring of support for this parade. So it said it actually could be a wash. They just don't want to tell you that because it's not going to actually go back to the military. It goes to Washington, D.C. So for overall taxation and overall expenditures, they said it actually will probably be a zero-sum basis, meaning it won't actually cost anything because it's going to make the same amount with the tourism and the push and the parades. But they said, we're going to use it as a stopping point to say we need to spend this money on veterans. I agree, we need to spend money on veterans. But to say that you haven't wasted trillions of dollars on illegal immigrants is a moot point. Did you know New York City, just think, just a few months ago, New York City passed a bill that they were going to spend $300 and some odd billion on a new facility to house illegal homeless people and give them $10,000 Visa cards. Remember that? So let's talk about wasting money here. It's a moot point. Second con that the Democrats and rhinos are saying, the parade coincides with Trump's birthday and receiving flags and all this stuff. It raises concerns that he's glorifying himself. It's a spectacle. Critics like Senator Jack Reed and scholars like Risa Brooks warn that it resembles authoritarian displays. This is what China and Russia do, not America. Number 3, it causes infrastructure and logistical concerns. Heavy vehicles like M1A1 Abrams tanks, 70 tons risking DC streets despite mitigation efforts like metal plates and rubber tracks on the pads. The Army has pledged to cover repairs or any cost to the burden of the city. However, they believe it won't cause any problems. Housing 6,000 soldiers in federal buildings with cots and MREs adds logistical complexity and costs, potentially disrupting a normal operation. See, these military are literally going to live inside these buildings on cots, and they're griping and complaining while they're literally paying housing. California just passed a new initiative where they're going to pass, it's like $10 billion to house homeless people off the streets and put them, listen to this now, they will put them in housing condos better than the middle class can afford. But now we're griping about military having to sleep on cots to do this parade. Unbelievable. Protests like the No Kings movement are planned nationwide to oppose the parades of authoritarian. They should cut all this up, glorifying the military, because America is living in hypocrisy. Now listen to this now. Some see this as hypocrisy of Trump because he chooses to get away from serving in the military. This is the con here. But his ego in perception to say this is for his birthday. Now, he has not come out and said anything about his birthday. It really has nothing to do with that. I think the military had already kind of had this planned, and it just happened to fall around the same day. Now, is it coincidence? Probably not. Is it for Trump's birthday? Not really. But again, we've probably spent more money on several other presidents over time. Now, my thoughts. This is probably going to be the safest day ever in Washington, D.C. because you're going to have so many military there. I actually don't find problem in this. The biggest issue for me is the money, but to be honest with you, they said it may be a moot point where pretty much the Army will spend the money to get people here, but ultimately they're trying to show pride and patriotism. We spend more money sending our military overseas to sit there than we do actually bringing patrioticness to America. So I don't actually think this is a bad thing at all. I actually kind of like the fact that we're showing a little brute force here. I think that it's not just authoritarian or dictatorship. It's literally just saying, look, be proud of what America has become. For the last 250 years, your military has fought and died for you in sacrifice. So I think this is a win-win, truthfully, when it comes to my thoughts. Now, that means a lot of places may be undefended or may not, if something were to happen, they have to move all this stuff out. Yeah, it could be a logistical nightmare. But to be honest with you, this is kind of what the military does. So, I'm indifferent, meaning I didn't care if it happened or not. But to hear these Democrats talk about the money part of this, or to hear these Democrats talk about the authoritarian part of this, that is such an oxymoronic statement from the Democrats and the rhinos ever. Now, this brings the whole point of why we're going to talk about California next. I want you to look at a picture. This is from Freedom News TV. See that? That's all those protesters standing around burning the American flag, spitting on it. So we go from the Democrats dogging out a military parade where it shows patrioticness, where people can wear their American flags, to where now we have the people that the Democrats are supporting spitting on the flag and burning it. Look at this. This is, if you know about, self-driving cars, that's a big deal in some of these bigger cities. These are robo-taxis. They cost anywhere from $200,000 to $600,000 from Waymo and also Tesla. Look, they put them in a line and burned them and ruined it. They said this will cost this company billions of dollars. So let me hear me out now. These same Democrats are dogging Trump out for spending $25 million on a military parade that's going to show patriotism, to where now these same Democrats are letting their streets get burned. Gavin Newsom is letting this happen, and they said this could literally cost more than $20 billion in damages if it stays at this course. You see this overpass? Those police went under that overpass right there, and all of a sudden all these people started hurling bricks and things like this over them. It stranded the police under this overpass. The police could not even get to their vehicle safely. But this is the kind of stuff that they say, well, this is freedom of expression. They're just protesting. That's not protesting. They're destroying private equipment. Waymo is a privately owned company. Privately owned company. And they destroyed those cars. Those businesses, remember, your tax dollars went to pay for those bridges, those cop cars, those roads, all the stuff that they're damaging. So now you have to double pay for it. In California, it's going to cost you a whole lot more too, because everything costs more in California. So we've paid for something as taxpayers. Now we have to repay for it because we're allowing for people to destroy it and then spit on our flag and burn our flag. Here's the difference. This is what a lot of the Democrats in Washington are saying, well, we didn't send the National Guard into January when Trump could have done that, and he did send the National Guard to California. Now, here's the thing. Here's the funny part of this. I want you to do your research. Trump did actually issue 10,000 troops coming into Washington, D.C. during J6. Guess who turned them away? Nancy Pelosi. She didn't want the troops there. So she was planning all that. You know, we didn't see one other flag waving on J6. We saw American flags, didn't we? There's a difference there. There's a difference. They walked through the Capitol. They didn't burn the place down like they're doing these cars. Billions of dollars of damage. Now, let's go to California. These same California, Gavin Newsom came out yesterday and was like, in Karen Bass, we don't need the National Guard. We didn't call for them. They're not even here. They were saying that for a while. Then all of a sudden everybody started filming saying there was National Guard there. So the same time the Democrats are saying they should have called the National Guard in on J6, they were saying don't call them in for California because we got it under control. Well, they didn't. And all of a sudden when the National Guard got there, they were like, we shouldn't have them here. So you're saying we should have had them in January in the Capitol, but shouldn't have them here. You hear, this is how politicians work. They speak out of both sides of their mouth. They become walking liars. They can't even remember what they spew out of this side of their mouth when they start spewing this stuff out of their mouth. Protesting is one thing. Throwing bricks at police, literally, they said there is calls where people are literally harming private citizens. There was this one lady that was kind of like an anti-ICE protester, meaning she was for ICE, she was pro-Trump. And they literally pushed on her, hit her with bikes, beat her down. And luckily they didn't harm her any more than that. But they said she had to seek a medical care. And her whole thing was her family, her whole family. Listen, this is so tragic. What she was protesting was she said, you know what? My whole family was murdered, was killed by a illegal immigrant. So she's out there saying, this is what needs to happen. We need to get these people out of our country because my whole family was taken from me because of this lack of responsibility by California and the Democrats. So we're griping at Trump for spending $25 million. We're going to spend probably upwards of $10 to $20 billion in California's situation. They said it could cost even more, but they said that's what it has totaled up so far. National Guard's coming in there, and these riders are literally trying to literally fight the National Guard. Now I want to go back to the whole story. This is what you hear from Democrats. They've not broken the law. They're here illegally. That means 100% of them broke the law. If we want a country that is based on laws, safety, freedom, responsibility, then we have to deport. And this is where we have to get to the fact to say that politicians are lying to us. I mean, let's just say this for a second. Do you realize if Trump was not president, think if Kamala was over this. Think of Gavin Newsom. Think of those kind of people leading you. You don't believe you should prepare and make sure you're ready? Because at one time, Trump will not be president, and there will be somebody like another Gavin Newsom in office allowing this stuff to keep on taking place. That's why you better deport now and get it taken care of, because if you don't, a Democrat wins, there'll be open borders forever, and you're going to see more and more and more of this. They said in Houston they're starting these same riots. They said in all the big cities they're starting these riots. Are you really ready for this? Because this is, again, the summer of love, kind of back like 2020 was. You're going to see it again happen right before your very eyes, because the Democrat leaders in these cities are going to let it happen. They want to see contagion. They want to see chaos. They want to see collapse. They want to see problems. So then Trump has to send in troops. So it looks like he's a dictator and authoritarian. That's why he's doing this military police. That's why he's doing this military parade. You see how it plays into their narrative? And here's the thing. There's even some Republicans starting to weigh in on it. I said this on Twitter yesterday. I said, what's going to happen is Trump is probably not going to stop doing what he's doing. So he's going to keep pressing forward. But he needs support. And all these little weak Republicans in Congress will fall by the wayside, and every one of them will say, well, you know, should he have sent in the troops? I would pull the troops out. Should we be deporting? It's sad. They're going to use this as, again, a way to go against Trump. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I was a huge Libertarian fan. I love Massey. I'm going to be completely honest. He came out yesterday and said something about only deporting criminals. No, you better deport everybody. He's kind of backing down on some of his stances there. Rand Paul, he's actually been a sellout this last few months. Came out yesterday really against all this. I mean, come on. See, when we start losing the people with R behind their names, it's harder for Trump to actually get initiative passed and America to actually shine and actually prove the point that these people shouldn't be here. Do you really want people on your streets burning the flag, spitting on it, and waving another country's flag? Why don't you go try that in another country, see how that works out for you. You know what? That we'll probably never hear from you again because you will probably be gone. What are we doing in America? So you know why everybody's worried about June 14th? I'd quit worrying about June 14th with the military parade. I'd start worrying about, what's today? June 9th. I'd worry about June 7th through the 9th in California and the next days coming out in these cities, because what we're seeing is actually more waste of money. The use of our military when we shouldn't have to, because the police should be able to handle it, but because they've let their cities go to absolute pandemonium. Too bad. And so now we're stuck in this situation. And that's not counting the homeless encampments. That's not counting the frivolous spending they've put homeless people up in these big condos where normal people can't even afford. They said average teacher and average policeman can't afford the places that they're now putting homeless people with your tax dollars. Karen Bass has actually, they said Karen Bass has spent so much money on homeless encampments and homeless shelters that she's actually made it to where people that are homeless, that never worked for their money, illegal immigrants never worked for their money in America and actually came here legally, they have better homes than the people that are teaching, nursing, and policing this area. It's unbelievable. So let's quit worrying about June 14th and everyone's mad about it. The rhinos and the Democrats are up in arms about it, and let's start focusing on what's happening in California, because I believe we're going to see this spread like a wildfire. And oh, by the way, let's bring up a point there. You know, Karen Bass just cut the LAPD and the fire department's budget to give it to homeless shelters. Go back and do your research. Just cut it again. Isn't it funny how she's trying to cut the budget even deeper when the LAPD is overwhelmed, and that's why the National Guard's there. Remember, we just had the biggest fire ever in California, just what, in January? And she just cut their budget again, and the council just cut their budget again. Quit worrying about June 14th. You better start worrying about these liberal areas. Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.